Bob Weiner, Democratic strategist, columnist, and former communications director for Clinton drug czar General Barry McCaffrey, also former chief of staff for the House Committee on Aging. Bob, good to have you on board. Bob, let me ask you this very quickly. We were just chatting a little bit. We're talking about the President's State of the Union address and what's likely to be a part of it. But in a related matter, as I was just chatting with Amy,
immigration, guns, and budget, Alan. That's the speech. That will all be big parts of it. All three, and especially jobs. If the Republicans would ever stop, obstructing the bills that he puts through on them.
Well, a number of the bills that he tried to put through having to do with the budget were thoroughly rejected by both parties unanimously. He put forward a 2012 budget at the end of 2011, and it was rejected by the Senate 99 to zip. Tried it again in the House the following month in the beginning of 2012. That presidential budget was rejected 414 to zip. Right. Some Democrats abstained or didn't.
Well, it wasn't really the budget. It was the Republicans' version of his budget, and Democrats knew that the Republicans were going to make it dead on arrival and filibuster it. So it was politics all around.
Can't filibuster in the House, only in the Senate, and even that's not, it's not a constitutionally mandated thing.
And
it's an option.
The Ryan budget passed in the House, which cut the what out of Medicare and everything else, so that wasn't going anywhere. So everybody was offering budgets that were dead on arrival.
Yeah, but I also remember that the Obama's own debt reduction committee, the Bowles-Simpson committee, liked Paul Ryan's approach, had far more compliments to it.
Concept, they did not like specifically the Ryan Medicare cuts.
We have a budget deficit problem that we have to address. Now, Bob, I'll ask you what I asked Amy.
You're absolutely right.
Since budget problems only come about through overspending, isn't she really arguing a contrast where there is no difference, Bob Weiner?
When we spend more than the next 13 countries combined for defense, but we really only need the counter-terror intelligence strategy that got bin Laden, and the drones are good and liberals are off their rockers opposing them because drones save tons of money of big footprint wars, Pelosi's exactly right.
On board as well, Bob Weiner, Democratic strategist, columnist, and former communications director for Clinton drug czar General Barry McCaffrey. He's also former chief of staff for the House Committee on Aging. Bob, good to have you as well.
It's a pleasure, Alan, but if you want to increase poverty and welfare in America, cut Medicare by whatever proportion, whatever excuse, whatever age you want, and you will increase the poverty that it dropped by 25%, just like Social Security dropped poverty among seniors by 50%. There's a reason for those programs. They're the most successful in the history of America.
There seems to be a disconnect between your response and my assertion, because by your measure, the best way to drown out poverty is to actually then start lowering the eligibility age. I mean, by your standard, we might as well take it down to the 50s. How about the 40s?
Well, now you got
How about
point.
the 30s?
Medicare for all would be a very successful health program that would stop us from paying twice what the rest of the world pays for health care. You came up with a good proposal, Alan. I'm for it. Well, entitlement means you paid for it. Social Security is covered by the numbers until 2034, although the government spent some of the money.
Spent it all.
Likewise, I'll finish my point. You made yours. And likewise, Medicare for the next 10 years is fully paid for, entitled, paid for. So it doesn't even have a dime's difference in the budget. So if we're looking for how we technically improve our budget process, you don't do it by taking away what you could do. And what you could do is, as I said in the beginning of the show, stop us from paying more than the next 13 countries combined for military and go.
Well, the one guy who would disagree with you, at least from some years ago, at least in 2000, is Jack Lew, current nominee for Secretary of Treasury. He is former Obama chief of staff, before that former head of his OMB, and he was Clinton's OMB, Office of Management and Budget. And during 2000, about the time Clinton was in office, when he discussed this issue, he said of Social Security that there are no real funds there that can be drawn down upon. Exactly. They're just notes. That's all they are.
I actually talked to Jack Lew about that at a meeting at the White House, and what Jack Lew said to me in response to my question was, you are absolutely right that Social Security is not a drain, especially on the short term. In the long term, we should do something. That means in 25 years, when the technical funds that the people gave to it to fund it have an impact and suddenly aren't funded anymore, they're funded 25% less.
The debt would fluctuate between 73% and 77% of gross domestic product. This is something we haven't seen since World War II. Bob Weiner.
Well, I actually talked to Lori 2 days ago about her stories because the National Press Club is having a forum tomorrow at 10 o'clock, debate on the budget by Democratic and Republican leaders from the Congress, and I'm actually hosting it. But, we've dropped the debt down to under $1 trillion. Washington Post headline, for the first time, Obama is actually reducing the debt. Very few people realize